This week, we're finally getting a drive in the 2020 Honda CR-V. I've been wanting to get into the latest generation of the CR-V for quite a while. We have a touring all-wheel drive, top trim about $34,750. It has a 190 horsepower, 1.5-liter turbocharged engine. Honda's Earth Dreams motor is quite fuel efficient. This gets 32 miles to the gallon on the highway, 27 in the city. That engine is mated to a CVT, which I will say is probably the best in the business. Honda's Turbo 1.5 mated to this CVT is a great drivetrain for the CR-V in front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive forms. Let's talk a little bit about this. I'll take you through the cabin. We'll do a little walk around and then we'll go for a test drive. Also do a sound test. We have the premium audio system. Sounds quite nice. Overall, I really like the CR-V. There isn't a lot to complain about. I think probably my number one complaint is just this infotainment system. It has been mentioned by a lot of other car reviewers. It's slow, it's laggy. Luckily though, it does have Apple CarPlay, and once you get most of your settings, it should be pretty simple to use. Down here you have a 1.5 amp charge port and then another 1 amp charge port, as well as wireless charging, which is new for 2020. They've also kind of redesigned the center console area here. A few more options to store things. It is nice to have all this storage space, and Honda's been smart and used slightly grippier material to keep things in place from rattling around. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, they both work quite well. Pretty basic to use. This is a smaller screen. You'd think with the panel being this big, the screen would be a little bit larger, but there's a lot of just empty space. Luckily, you do get climate control knobs and buttons, heated seats, and new for 2020 is a heated steering wheel, which is a welcome addition. All of your buttons, your knobs, your controls are quite easy to use, except for changing the tuning on your radio. Really, it's a little bit tedious to shift between Sirius XM stations or various things. But again, once you get your settings programmed, you should be in pretty good shape. You can see they've made some changes with the front design. You've got this chrome strip that kind of runs up and down the bumper. I think overall this is a pretty pleasing looking crossover. It's a little bit edgy, like in keeping with Honda's recent designs. There is a lot of space in the CR-V to put things. You have a nice low loading floor, spare tire, jack, and Honda even gives you a little oil filler there, which is very nice, so you don't spill it and get it all over the engine bay. There's a cargo cover that neatly adjusts there to cover your precious belongings, and you can fold down the 2 rear seats with the pull of these levers right there, and they go down immediately. Easy to use, very well designed. This doesn't quite lay flat, but you can raise this floor to sit here so that the rear cargo area does lay completely flat, which I say is quite nice. There's plenty of room in the back seat. Lots of head height too. For my 5'10" frame, I'm actually quite comfortable back here, and I have a surprising amount of legroom. A couple of cup holders. These leather armrest materials are all soft to the touch. It's actually very comfortable. While we're here, might as well take a peek under the hood. There you go, Earth Dreams Turbo, ticking away. Lots of cool storage solutions here, place to put things, the plastics, everything in here. It feels very solid, like it's going to last a long time. Your touch points are great, no shakes or rattles. This wood trim is a little bit disagreeable because it looks fake, and it is fake, but that's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. You get Honda's weird fisheye reverse camera. Definitely not the best in the biz, but it does the job. And of course, standard for 2020 is Honda's sensing full safety suite. Good turning radius too. One thing I do appreciate about the CR-V is that it hasn't really increased in size much over the years. It's still a pretty maneuverable, nicely sized crossover. From a driving perspective, I mean, I'm going to compare this to the RAV4, and I will say this versus the non-hybrid RAV4, I take the CR-V all day. This drives so much better. It's just a little bit nicer ride quality. It feels like it's built a little bit more solid. It's just a little bit better of a driving experience. Now, I would like to compare hybrid to hybrid, because I do love the RAV4 hybrid, but I'm sure with Honda's the same hybrid system that's in the Accord, that's a fantastic drivetrain, and it would be fantastic in the CR-V as well. Hopefully we can do a comparison later this year. Really, my only complaint about the driving experience in the CR-V is I wish the steering wheel would come a little bit closer to me. For taller drivers, that might be a little bit of an issue. It does telescope, just not quite far enough. Otherwise, though, this thing is great, as you would expect. Really no complaints. Let's throw it into sport mode and see how it does on this entrance ramp. When you're really hammering it, the engine's actually pretty loud, but for most daily driving circumstances, you don't see revs over 3,000 RPM. And that turbo gives you a good amount of torque and gets you up to speed easily. The engine isn't harsh at those revs and that lighter load. It feels great. The CVT in this CR-V is butter smooth. There's no weird jolts or jerks. There's no whine. It feels really, really nicely isolated. And it's pretty fuel efficient too. All week I've been averaging about 30 miles to the gallon, 31 miles to the gallon. There's definitely a more luxurious feel to the CR-V than, let's say, the RAV4, for example. Feels like a nicer quality item, at least with all of your interactions and all your touch points. This turn signal has a really solid feel to it. The gear selector feels quite nice. And there's a lot of agreeable materials and touch points in here. Let's test the sound system. sounds pretty good. I will say the handling in this is, I mean, it's about average. It's what you'd expect from a modern crossover. Not particularly inspiring or fun to drive, but it has really nice ride quality. It handles decently well. It doesn't beat you up over the bumps. There's no bouncing around or skipping from the suspension around corners. It's a very nice, soft, comfortable car. Decent blind spot visibility. The cruise control is easy to operate. You can skip 5-mile-an-hour increments by holding the plus button. Change your following distance very easily, and have your lane keep assist set with this button right here. Very, very simple and easy to operate in the real world. I will say this system seems to be working a little bit better for me than the Civic SIs did that we had a couple months ago. Not as buggy, and I haven't had any weird random collision alerts come up telling me that I'm about to hit a car when I'm not about to hit a car. The stop start works quite well too. Comes on immediately. And acceleration from a stop is quite good as well from a CVT without it being jolting to your passengers. Some angles the sunroof does blind your screens here, but if they were angled up a little bit higher that wouldn't be as much of an issue, but for the most part that's not a problem. I think the key word here with the CR-V is refinement, and that's pretty much been the case since 2015, since I drove the kind of this newest generation. And it's nice. It's a very nice overall package. It's an impressive car to drive and to live with. It's very practical and roomy and comfortable. they've added a little bit of ground clearance to this latest generation too to assist in its off-road manners. That's always a welcome addition. There you go, guys. CR-V. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I think that'll sum it up for this car. We've also got some day and night POV driving videos on this on Winding Road Magazine's channel. And other than that, hopefully we can get into a CR-V hybrid here soon and compare that neck and neck with the RAV4. That'll be a pretty good comparison. You know, you've got a few options in this segment. They're all pretty good. This is a really nice all-rounder. I think if you want something that's a little bit more spirited, a little bit more fun to drive, the CX-5 has got to be your top option. But really the only drawback to the CR-V that I can find is the infotainment. And with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto these days, that's almost irrelevant. So those are my thoughts. Let me know if you guys have anything else that you want to add. Chime in as owners, etc., etc. We'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care.